The digital landscape has transformed from a simple playground of shared ideas into a vast, complex battlefield where the lines between organic human emotion and calculated, weaponized manipulation have completely blurred. For years, the public has consumed media with the implicit understanding that popular trends, viral discussions, and widespread public outcries are born from the collective conscious of real human beings reacting to the world in real time. We watch the numbers climb, we observe the hashtags trend globally, and we assume that we are witnessing a genuine manifestation of societal sentiment, whether that sentiment is adoration or collective outrage. However, beneath the smooth, user-friendly interfaces of our favorite social media networks lies a highly sophisticated and deeply unsettling ecosystem, where public perception is no longer just observed, but actively manufactured from the ground up. Over the past few prominent years, this hidden machinery has increasingly targeted public figures, orchestrating massive, coordinated waves of hostility that appear completely organic to the untrained eye, but are actually the result of highly disciplined, deliberate digital warfare. It raises a chilling question about the nature of modern fame and the vulnerability of the human beings caught in the crosshairs of these invisible networks, forcing us to reconsider everything we see on our screens as we navigate an era where online spaces can be weaponized against anyone at any time for reasons that remain entirely opaque. This phenomenon is perhaps nowhere more visible or more intensely focused than in the unrelenting wave of scrutiny and hostility directed toward the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Since their high-profile departure from the traditional confines of senior royal duties, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have remained central figures in a sprawling, non-stop global media narrative that seems to generate endless commentary. While public figures of their stature naturally expect a certain degree of criticism and debate, the sheer volume, consistency, and astonishing venom of the online commentary surrounding them began to raise serious red flags among investigative journalists and digital data analysts alike. It became increasingly clear that what the world was witnessing was not merely a random collection of disgruntled traditionalists or casual internet trolls venting their personal frustrations, but rather something far more sinister, organized, and pervasive. To fully understand how deeply this digital hostility penetrates our daily media consumption, we must look closer at the specific mechanisms driving these conversations, analyzing the subtle patterns that differentiate a regular user's opinion from a calculated, multi-layered campaign designed specifically to devalue, isolate, and dehumanize its targets on a global scale. Before we uncover the terrifying mechanics of how this massive digital network operates and reveal the astonishing evidence uncovered by frontline investigators, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the hidden forces shaping modern media culture. The unraveling of this massive digital conspiracy began when specialized research teams and data scientists started noticing highly unusual anomalies, and the traffic patterns of specific, hyper-focused discussion threads across major social media platforms, most notably on Twitter. In a normal online environment, public interest peaks and valleys in direct correlation with actual real-world events, such as a major interview, a public appearance, or a significant press release, followed by a natural decline as the public attention span inevitably shifts to other breaking news stories. But in the case of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the data revealed a completely different, highly unnatural phenomenon where a massive, self-sustaining loop of intense negativity remained constantly active, operating at an incredibly high baseline of hostility regardless of whether the couple was actively in the public eye or living quietly away from the cameras. When researchers began extracting millions of tweets, comments, and engagement metrics for deep algorithmic analysis, the mathematical models pointed directly to a highly centralized, deliberate effort, rather than a decentralized, spontaneous movement of everyday citizens. The deeper the investigators dug into the digital architecture of this phenomenon, the more they realized they were staring into an unprecedented abyss of targeted harassment, where hundreds of accounts were working in perfect, rhythmic synchronization to flood the digital space with toxic narratives, effectively drowning out any neutral or objective discourse through sheer overwhelming repetition. As this investigation gained momentum, it drew the attention of prominent digital media outlets, including dedicated reporters who specialize in tracking internet culture, disinformation, and the profound ways in which online harassment impacts real-world perceptions. These journalists quickly realized that the story was no longer just about celebrity gossip or royal family dynamics, but rather a groundbreaking case study in how modern technology can be systematically abused to destroy reputations and manipulate the collective psychology of millions of unsuspecting readers worldwide. The evidence collected pointed toward a dedicated cadre of core accounts that served as the primary command and control hubs for the entire operation, generating highly specific, toxic talking points that were then instantly amplified by an interconnected web of secondary profiles, creating an artificial echo chamber of unprecedented proportions. The sheer sophistication of this operations strongly suggested a level of planning, coordination, and resource allocation that goes far beyond the capabilities of casual internet users, hinting at a darker reality where digital platforms are completely powerless or perhaps desperately ill-equipped. To stop the systematic destruction of an individual's public image when faced with an adversary that understands how to perfectly exploit every loophole in the platform's community guidelines and algorithm design. The deep, methodical investigation into this unnatural ecosystem of digital hostility eventually led researchers straight to the specialized analytic tools of data analytics firms, most notably Bot Sentinel, an organization dedicated to tracking disinformation and online harassment networks. When the lead investigator, Christopher Boozy, and his team began processing more than 114,000 tweets specifically targeting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, they uncovered a structural pattern that left no room for coincidence. The data definitively proved that this massive wave of global negativity was not an organic groundswell of public opinion, but rather a highly concentrated, meticulously engineered campaign driven by an astonishingly small number of core accounts. Specifically, the analysis revealed that just 83 highly interconnected profiles were responsible for generating approximately 70% of all the abusive, hateful content directed at Meghan Markle and Prince Harry on the entire Twitter platform. This core group of digital operators wielded an extraordinary, disproportionate amount of influence, utilizing a vast network of thousands of secondary subordinate accounts that existed solely to amplify their primary messaging, retweet their toxic narratives, and manipulate the platform's algorithmic distribution systems to ensure that their targeted venom remained visible to millions of casual internet users every single day. The precise mechanics of how these 83 central accounts operated reveal a level of coordination that closely mirrors professional psychological operations and political disinformation campaigns. These accounts did not simply post random insults. They worked in perfect rhythmic synchronization, carefully planning their content drops, coordinating specific hashtags, and sharing prefabricated multimedia assets designed to maximize emotional outrage and cognitive engagement. When investigators analyzed the historical timelines of these profiles, they discovered that they frequently interacted almost exclusively with one another, creating a tightly sealed artificial echo chamber where extreme narratives could be continuously amplified, validated, and refined before being unleashed into the broader public discourse. Furthermore, the operational patterns showed that these accounts would instantly mobilize to swarm any independent user, journalist, or public figure who attempted to defend the couple or question the validity of the negative stories, effectively silencing opposition through sheer, overwhelming digital intimidation. This aggressive tactic ensured that the broader narrative remained entirely dominated by their manufactured hostility, making it appear to the casual observer that the entire internet was unified in its intense, unyielding condemnation of the royal couple. One of the most complex challenges that journalists like Ellie Hall and data scientists faced during this deep dive was determining the exact nature of the actors behind these highly toxic accounts, specifically trying to answer the burning question of whether they were automated bots or real human beings. The investigation yielded a fascinating and deeply troubling answer that highlights the evolving nature of modern digital warfare, revealing that these were not primitive, fully automated computer scripts simply blasting repetitive text into the void. Instead, the vast majority of the core profiles exhibited highly intelligent, human-like behavior, proving that they were operated by actual individuals who were manually typing out responses, tailoring their arguments to current news cycles, and interacting with their followers in a highly authentic manner. However, while the content creation itself was distinctly human, the propagation and amplification strategies relied heavily on automation, meaning that real people were driving the strategy while using sophisticated software tools to instantly duplicate, share, and cross-promote their malicious messaging across hundreds of auxiliary accounts simultaneously. This hybrid approach, often referred by experts as cyborg activity, combines the intellectual agility and emotional manipulation of a real human operator with the terrifying speed, scale, and relentless endurance of automated digital networks, making the campaign incredibly resilient and exceptionally difficult for standard platform moderation systems to detect or dismantle. As the definitive proof of this coordinated campaign became public, the individuals who dared to expose the machinery quickly found themselves targeted by the very network they were investigating, illustrating the extreme dangers inherent in confronting these digital syndicates. Christopher Boozy, the founder of Bot Sentinel, became the subject of an intense, highly personalized retaliation campaign that seemed designed to completely destroy his professional credibility, financial stability, and personal peace of mind. The harassment network immediately redirected a significant portion of its operational capacity away from the Duchess of Sussex and onto Bowsy himself, flooding his professional channels with defamatory claims, manufacturing elaborate false allegations regarding his business practices, and filing thousands of fraudulent reports against his personal and corporate social media accounts in a coordinated effort to get him permanently banned from the platforms. This vicious, immediate backlash demonstrated that the operators behind the harassment campaign were not merely casual, disorganized internet trolls acting on impulse, but rather a highly defensive, self-aware collective that recognized the existential threat posed by rigorous, data-driven exposure and was fully prepared to deploy its weaponized infrastructure against anyone who threatened to reveal its hidden inner workings to the global public. For the investigative journalists documenting this unfolding saga, observing this immediate, retaliatory onslaught provided an unexpected and profound confirmation of their worst fears, illustrating that targeted personal online attacks have become an unavoidable, everyday hazard for professionals working on the front lines of digital truth. The sheer velocity of the hatred directed at investigators, simply for asking questions about why Meghan Markle was receiving such intense animosity, exposed a deeply unsettling paradox within the modern internet architecture, showing that the simple act of examining digital malice is now treated as a hostile provocation punishable by immediate, systematic character assassination. This disturbing reality forced a chilling realization upon the journalistic community as it became undeniably clear that these online campaigns operate with a level of impunity that threatens the core foundation of free public inquiry, creating a digital environment where the truth is actively suppressed through the threat of relentless, multi-layered personal ruin. Yet, despite the immense pressure and the constant, exhausting influx of coordinated abuse, the investigators pressed forward, driven by the knowledge that this specific campaign was merely a symptom of a much larger, global vulnerability that continues to threaten the integrity of public discourse far beyond the boundaries of royal family commentary. The revelation that an astonishingly small cluster of 83 interconnected accounts could dictate a massive portion of the global narrative surrounding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex exposes the true, frightening core of this entire phenomenon, demonstrating that modern digital spaces are highly vulnerable to deliberate distortion. When Christopher Bowsey and his specialized data scientists at Bot Sentinel finally completed their comprehensive evaluation of the data, they discovered that these core profiles were not just shouting into an empty digital void, but were actively manipulating a combined audience of over 187,000 direct followers. Through the systematic and aggressive deployment of advanced platform manipulation techniques, this relatively minor collection of coordinated operators achieved a unique mathematically calculated potential reach of more than 17 million individual social media users worldwide. This massive reach meant that completely fabricated stories, doctored photos, and deceptively edited video clips were continuously pushed directly into the main algorithmic feeds of millions of everyday citizens who had absolutely no idea they were consuming highly curated, deliberately weaponized propaganda designed solely to damage the reputations of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. This operation proved with terrifying clarity that a small, highly disciplined group possesses the power to completely manufacture a false public consensus, effectively tricking the world into believing that a widespread, organic cultural movement of intense hatred exists when it is actually nothing more than a carefully orchestrated digital illusion. Wikipedia. It showed too, as investigators peeled back the final layers of this complex operation, the most shocking discovery emerged not from the technical methods utilized by the attackers, but from the highly lucrative financial infrastructure that actively funded and sustained this relentless campaign of targeted hostility. What initially appeared to be a random, decentralized manifestation of pure ideological hatred or personal malice was revealed upon closer examination to be a highly organized, highly successful hate-for-profit enterprise that had essentially turned personal harassment into a booming cottage industry. Later follow-up reports by digital analytics firms estimated that the top influencers anchoring this anti-Sussex network collectively generated nearly $3.5 million in ad revenue and private donations by creating content solely focused on defaming, mocking, and dehumanizing the royal couple. These operators realize that the algorithms governing modern social media networks are engineered to prioritize high-conflict engagement over objective truth, meaning that the more extreme, sensational, and controversial a story is, the more visibility it receives from the platform's automated systems. By continuously feeding this insatiable digital appetite with a non-stop stream of shocking conspiracy theories, coded racist language, and personalized vitriol, these content creators successfully unlocked a goldmine of continuous viewer clicks. resulting in massive monetization payouts from automated advertisement programs that rewarded them financially for every single piece of manufactured outrage they unleashed into the global public square. Wikipedia to truly comprehend the profound historical context and gravity of this situation, it is necessary to examine the diverse backgrounds of the central participants who found themselves thrust into the center of this unprecedented digital conflict. Starting with the founder of Bot Sentinel himself, Christopher Bouzy, an experienced American tech entrepreneur and software developer, originally launched his analytics platform back in 2018 with the explicit, idealistic goal of tracking foreign disinformation networks and improving the safety of online environments following widespread evidence of state-sponsored interference in major international democratic elections. Bouzy had spent years studying the complex behavior of automated bot networks. Yet even his deep expertise was pushed to its absolute limits when his system stumbled upon the staggering level of algorithmic manipulation being directed at the Duchess of Sussex, forcing him to pivot his corporate resources toward exposing a domestic, decentralized network of harassment that operated with the same level of discipline as a professional, state-funded psychological operation. Alongside him stood investigative journalists like Ellie Hall of BuzzFeed News, who dedicated months of intense research to translating these dense, abstract data sheets into clear, accessible, public interest reporting, bravely shining a bright light on the dark underbelly of internet culture, despite knowing that doing so would immediately make them primary targets for the very same venomous networks they were attempting to dismantle before the global public. Wikipedia, the primary targets of this weaponized ecosystem, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, had long warned the public about the severe, deeply destructive nature of modern online vitriol, with the Duchess internally describing the intense influx of digital abuse she received during her 2019 pregnancy as a profoundly isolating experience that was at times almost entirely unsurvivable for her mental and emotional health. The ultimate confirmation of their warnings came when the official findings of these independent data reports were finally presented directly to the executive leadership teams of major social media networks, prompting a series of internal platform investigations that eventually led to the permanent suspension of numerous high-profile accounts named in the data sheets. However, the corporate response from these trillion-dollar tech conglomerates highlighted a deeply troubling institutional reluctance to fully confront the systemic flaws embedded within their underlying business models, as platforms frequently chose to issue vague statements downplaying the presence of widespread coordination while quietly taking piecemeal action against individual users who clearly violated their community guidelines. This half-hearted approach left the broader underlying infrastructure completely intact, proving to digital rights advocates that the platforms remain fundamentally dependent on high-conflict engagement to maximize their corporate profits, even when that engagement is driven by coordinated harassment syndicates. SBS ultimately, the grand saga of the orchestrated digital campaign targeting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex matters far beyond the immediate boundaries of celebrity news, serving as a terrifying blueprint for how modern technology can be systematically deployed to completely destroy any human being who dares to disrupt established institutional structures. The disturbing reality exposed by this landmark investigation is that the exact same tactics of cyborg automation, algorithmic exploitation, and targeted characters assassination can be seamlessly redirected against political dissidents, environmental activists, corporate whistleblowers, or ordinary private citizens at a moment's notice by any motivated entity with the resources to fund a small network of dedicated operators. It forces humanity to confront a deeply unsettling future, where the concept of absolute objective truth is continuously eroded by the financial incentives of an attention economy that rewards the generation of toxic falsehoods over the preservation of human dignity and authentic public discourse. As the digital age continues to evolve at an astronomical pace, the lessons learned from this profound exposure stand as a stark final warning that unless global societies demand radical transparency, comprehensive algorithmic accountability, and strict systemic regulation of social media architecture, the very tools that were originally built to bring the world closer together will continue to be masterfully weaponized, tear fabric of our collective reality apart completely.